How ADHD can rebuild momentum without urgency, and why panic isn't motivation. For many people with ADHD, momentum has always come from urgency. Deadlines, pressure, fear, and last-minute panic are often the only things that seem to get the brain moving. When something has to be done right now, focus appears, energy spikes, action happens. Over time, urgency starts to feel like motivation. If you've ever thought, "I only work when I'm under pressure," you're not broken. You're describing a nervous system pattern. The problem is that urgency is expensive. It borrows energy from the future. Each time you rely on panic to move forward, you pay for it later with exhaustion, emotional crashes, avoidance, or burnout. Eventually, urgency stops working the way it used to. Deadlines feel paralyzing instead of activating. Panic turns into shutdown. At that point, many people worry they've lost motivation entirely. In reality, the nervous system is protecting itself from further strain. Momentum doesn't actually come from urgency. Urgency just forces motion. Real momentum comes from safety, predictability, and trust. ADHD brains need momentum that doesn't depend on adrenaline. Rebuilding that kind of momentum requires understanding why urgency worked in the first place, and why it eventually fails. Urgency works because it creates a surge of stimulation. ADHD brains are driven by dopamine, and urgency provides it instantly. The looming deadline narrows attention, blocks out distractions, and creates a single clear priority. For a short time, this can feel like clarity. But that clarity is artificial. It comes from stress, not stability. When the stress passes, the system crashes. Another reason urgency feels necessary is that it bypasses emotional complexity. When something is urgent, there's no time to feel doubt, fear, or uncertainty. Action becomes automatic. Without urgency, those emotions resurface. Tasks feel heavier, choices feel riskier. This can make calm work feel impossible. The issue isn't laziness, it's unprocessed emotional load. Many people with ADHD worry that, without urgency, nothing will get done. This fear makes sense if urgency has been your primary driver for years. Letting go of urgency can feel like letting go of control. But urgency isn't control, it's coercion. And coercion always has a cost. Rebuilding momentum without urgency starts with redefining what momentum actually is. Momentum doesn't have to mean fast progress or constant output. Momentum can mean steady engagement. Showing up consistently, even in small ways, builds momentum that doesn't require recovery afterward. This kind of momentum feels quieter, but it lasts longer. The first step is lowering the activation threshold. Urgency forces high activation, big effort, big emotional push. ADHD-friendly momentum starts with low activation. Small steps, minimal friction, tasks that feel almost too easy. This might seem insignificant, but it's how trust is rebuilt. Each small engagement tells the nervous system that effort is safe. Another key shift is separating starting from finishing. Urgency often forces both at once. Without urgency, trying to finish everything creates pressure and avoidance. When you allow yourself to just start, without expectation of completion, resistance drops. Momentum begins with permission, not pressure. Predictability also plays a huge role. Urgency thrives on chaos. Calm momentum thrives on predictability. Doing things at roughly the same time, in similar contexts, reduces cognitive load. The brain doesn't have to decide when or how to engage. It just follows a familiar pattern. This predictability creates safety, which supports momentum. Many ADHD adults struggle here because consistency has been weaponized against them. They've been told they're inconsistent, unreliable, or undisciplined. As a result, routines can feel emotionally loaded. Rebuilding momentum requires reframing routines as support rather than judgment. Routines are there to help, not to measure worth. Another important element is emotional neutrality. Urgency is emotionally intense. Calm momentum is emotionally neutral. Tasks don't need to feel exciting or dreadful. They can just exist. Neutrality reduces emotional resistance. This is especially important for tasks tied to shame or past failure. Momentum without urgency also requires redefining success. Under urgency, success means finishing everything on time. Without urgency, success means engaging regularly. You may not complete tasks as quickly, but you'll recover faster and avoid burnout. Over time, this leads to more output, not less. It's also essential to stop using panic as proof of capability. Many people believe that because they can perform under pressure, that's their true ability. In reality, performance under panic is not a fair measure of competence. It's a stress response. Sustainable momentum reveals your real capacity, and it's often higher than you expect. Another challenge is tolerating boredom. Urgency masks boredom by flooding the system with stimulation. Calm work exposes boredom, which ADHD brains struggle with. Learning to tolerate low stimulation in short bursts is part of rebuilding momentum. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to be bored for hours. It means gradually increasing tolerance while keeping tasks manageable. Environmental design matters here. Reducing distractions, simplifying workspaces, and removing unnecessary friction makes calm engagement easier. When the environment supports focus, the brain doesn't have to rely on urgency to block out noise. Another crucial piece is emotional recovery. Momentum breaks down when recovery is ignored. Calm momentum includes built-in recovery, breaks that are intentional and guilt-free. Rest isn't a reward for productivity, it's a requirement for consistency. Rebuilding momentum also involves grieving the loss of urgency. This may sound strange, but urgency has likely been a reliable companion. It helped you survive school, work, and deadlines. Letting go of it can feel like losing a part of yourself. Acknowledging this grief makes the transition easier. Trust is central here. You need to trust that small efforts matter. ADHD brains often discount small progress because it doesn't feel dramatic. But small progress compounds. Each low-pressure engagement builds confidence and reduces reliance on panic. Another helpful practice is tracking effort rather than outcomes. Outcomes fluctuate. Effort is more consistent. When you acknowledge effort, motivation becomes internal instead of reactive. This supports momentum that isn't tied to external pressure. It's also important to recognize that urgency will still appear sometimes, and that's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate urgency forever, it's to stop depending on it as your primary engine. Over time, urgency becomes a tool, not a necessity. Rebuilding momentum without urgency changes how life feels. Work becomes less dramatic, progress feels steadier, burnout becomes less frequent. Self-trust grows. You stop swinging between overdrive and collapse. Inside Dopaloop Pro, we focus on helping ADHD brains build this kind of momentum. Sustainable, calm, and respectful of capacity. We help you replace panic-driven productivity with systems that work even on low-energy days. If you want ADHD-friendly support for rebuilding momentum without urgency, you'll find the link in the description.